and the people weren't qualified, how many people were actually employed from here? Or were the people transferred? Then there's another, something else you brought up, and I think it was you, Nelson. I heard Coxwells was supposed to come here, but they wanted to, this is what I heard, I don't know the actual truth of it, but it has something to do with wages. They wanted to pay potential employees, but they couldn't because they were told that, oh, we don't pay our employees or people here that much. So I don't know about that, but I mean, I'm just trying to understand these different things.
Two questions.
I'm sorry.
No. Two questions I heard was that
Yeah.
there is the perception that we will accept less than for our hourly employees is maybe a reality, and there was a situation that might have actually taken place. That's one of the questions I heard, and that's the one I'd like to get an answer to. If you know of it, you may not even know of it, but anyone want to comment? And it would be, what, city or county? Nelson, you're on the hot seat. We'll pass you the microphone.
So are we referring to?
What, was there a situation where a business was told that we won't pay our employees that much here?
No. That is absolutely not the case. No one, at least on our side, would ever say that. Again, our goal is to bring higher paying jobs here, not lower paying. So if that was conveyed, it was certainly not by anyone that had the authority to convey something of that nature. And to talk about a national chain, they have departments that study markets and where they need to be next in order to sell whatever it is they need to sell, whether it's a hamburger or clothing or whatever it may be. And so they're going to look at a couple things when they look into a market. One, how many households meet their demographic, and what is the income levels in order to sell whatever it is they're marketing. That's driving where, especially retail operations can go. Now, wages are part of that, and they've got to be able to make money at whatever they're selling. But I can tell you that we would, again, be doing our citizens a disservice if we ever convey that to a company. And I can tell you, without hesitation, no one from Richland County has done it.
And we had a question right here.
Thank you very much. Like all the years tonight. This is a huge problem, and huge problems have more than one solution working at the same time. I'm really focusing on public education. And the anti-public school voices out there create this perception that our schools are failing us, when the truth is we're failing our public schools. And I happen to know from personal experience that we have excellent public schools here in the Columbia Midlands area. So what I want to ask all of you is, what do you think we need to do to change the perception of our public schools?
And we do have our next forum, thank you, is August the 3rd at the Convention Center, and it's race and education. Not just public education, because we're not beating up on the elementary schools and the high schools, but education across the board. Education at home, education at the higher level, HBCUs, education across the board. What is the factor of race in education? But if one of you would like to take that on, you're a former educator, Nate.
Yeah, but I never taught in public school. I taught at the collegiate level. But to get to your question that I think is on point, or your issue, generally what has to happen is the people that think that the schools are so bad, they need to go into the school. Because most of the time when you hear someone says, when I was in school, the last time they were in a school was when they were a student in school. And they have no perception as how things have changed since they were in school. You simply can't do things the way you used to do them when they were in school, whoever that person is making it. But generally when they talk that way, they're telling you right off the bat that they haven't been inside of a school to know what kind of things are there. My daughter happens to be a first grade teacher now in Richland too. So, you know, I hear about the things that are going on in the public school system through her and through others. But part of what needs to happen to address the issue, as you say, is to get these very people inside of the school so they can see what's there. And I think they'll change their mind a little bit, but as long as they're talking about it from the outside, they have no earthly idea what's going on inside of the school now.
We have 3 questions over here. Ms. Roy?
I want to go back to the conversation about small business and minorities. And I just want to offer a blue collar perspective. When we leave here, we'll go back into a community that I don't even want to call it perception, because I think that's an overused word. But it seems that the experience in this community is that for a minority to go into a bank to apply for a loan, his application process is much more difficult than that of anyone else. Is the application process exactly the same, or am I given a 12-foot goal to stand up in when somebody else is given a 6-foot goal? The other question is, what is a minority? Because the conversation in the community is that a lot of the contracts we're talking about, especially these state-governed contracts, etc., go to minorities, but they go to minorities as women, which then includes the Caucasian population. If that's not correct, then please straighten us out on this, because this is how the people feel. If I don't have the social connections, the phone calls, if I don't have it in my, in my phone list, important people, when I walk into a bank, I'm at a strong disadvantage. That's the feeling that John people are.
Yeah, that's true. Mr. Baker?
Okay. Well, first, are you talking about a consumer loan, or are you talking about a commercial loan for a business?
I'm talking about a person being able to go into business.
Okay, so you're talking on the commercial side.
When we look in our communities, we see others that can come into this country. And it seems like when I lie down at night and wake up in the morning, there's a new business open in my community that's not people like me. But then when we try, we run into a lot of obstacles with zonings, with permits, and all of these things that frustrate us in the process. And I'm not saying anybody's wrong. I'm just saying the message seems not to be clear. I didn't come here to accuse, but certainly we need to leave with some clear message.
All right, well, you're talking on the commercial side of the bank. Let's do the minority part first also, because that's determined by whoever is making that determination. A lot of times we're saying small business. Well, there's definitions of small business by the Small Business Administration, by the state government, and they get to decide who is a small business or who is a minority person based on their criteria. As far as the commercial loans are concerned, there is a process that people go through, and so the first part of that process is going to be gathering your financial data, to show what it is that you bring to bear. And that's the first thing. So your personal financial statement, to see what it is. I wanted to mention credit reports, and that's going to be another thing that we're going to look at. Because from our perspective, on the banking side, I can't speak for all banks, I can talk for our bank, the most likely indicator of what it is you're likely to do with new monies that we loan to you is what you've done with old monies that you've had. So that's why we look at the credit report so critically. So you're looking at what monies you bring to bear, what credit you have, what is the plan that you have to do business, what capital you bring, because you're talking about some of these businesses opening up in the community. They're not necessarily opening up to borrow money. They're opening up with their own money. And that's what I think happens with many. They don't have any capital of their own. And I think this is an issue not just for the minority community, but for the nation as a whole, that we found out going into the Great Recession that access to credit, which many people had. They had access to credit cards, home equity loans of credit, and all this, but they dried up during the Great Recession. So people confuse lines access to credit with capital. They're different. Because if we can give you credit, we can also take it away. But if it's your money, we can't take that from you. So I think that's part of what you're seeing there is that people don't have the necessary capital to get past that first hurdle when you're talking to the banker in there. Now, you're talking to the commercial lender. One thing you can be sure of, they want to loan you money. That's their job. Now, it's not the commercial lenders that are causing you problems. They have to get past the credit people who are in the back room that you don't see. But I can assure you there's not a commercial lender that doesn't want to make every loan that comes into the bank. They just can't get it done. Because they got all the credit people that are going to say no, they don't have enough capital, or they haven't been in business long enough, or the credit is bad, and they're saying, but, and they can't get it passed. Now, one final thing I'll say now, Sheriff. Although we on the commercial side of the bank can loan certain monies to individuals from a banking side, we do have partnerships with other organizations that we put monies into that they in turn can loan monies out to. So there may be other avenues other than coming to the bank. So part of what you may find out if you're talking to someone and they say, we can't make the loan for you, ask them what other options might you have. Because they really don't want you to go away without some options. So they may say, have you considered this organization? They'll generally give you some options. And if they don't, give me a call, I'll give you some.
So I've had my nightmares with
Okay.
this. I'm all right.
Yeah,
I guess I got several questions, and this is directed to Nelson and gentleman from the city of Columbia. You stated several times that you wanted to get the word out about opportunities. Well, my name is Michael Bale. I'm with the Minority Eye. I'm in constant contact with minority small businesses. I personally have a list of over 500 type of contractors that can do the type of work that you guys are working on. So my question to you is, who are you reaching out to, and have you made partnerships with minority media, minority organizations in the community? I get hundreds of emails daily from minority contractors asking about, well, do you know of any opportunities or things coming down the pipe? And I've met with them. I've worked in the legislature for 13 years. I've dealt with this problem. I heard a lot of you speak about small businesses need to, especially minority African-American business, where they don't have the capacity, where they don't do this, or these businesses don't do that. Well, I've dealt with these businesses, and I know we have businesses that are capable of doing just the same level of work as majority companies. The question, and not that long ago, when you talk about race relations, people used to say minorities or African Americans can't go in the army, they fly planes, they got bad vision, they got this, blacks got that, and it seems like a lot of the same rhetoric that, oh, black businesses aren't this or black businesses aren't that. And that's just not the case that I have seen in the contractors that I have dealt with. And I have been speaking, and I have interviewed members of the TPAC, and they have expressed a concern that the county has not kept its word on reaching out and actively making sure that minorities participate in the money that's going to be brought in. And so my question to you guys, what as leadership, if you know this problem exists, what are you willing to do to deal and solve the problem?
We're at the Office of Economic Development. We are working on improving our outreach. We did a strategic plan in 2013, and one of the conclusions that came out of that was, and this is not with just the minority business community, but the business community overall, is that we have not been doing a good job of communicating and marketing with our existing businesses who are here locally, much less businesses that we are trying to attract to the area. We are in the process right now of doing marketing and communications plan, because we realize it's a weakness, and we're taking that on. We'll be bringing on a staff person probably within the next 3 months. Their goal will be 100% outreach. We want to be out there engaged and keeping the lines of dialogue open with the business community in its entirety, not just small women, minority-owned business. I want to give a shout out to Tina Herbert, because I know she would do the same to me, and she's just standing right back there at the back of the room. And yeah, Tina, hey, you've done this to me before, so Tina runs the city's Office of Business Opportunities, and they have done just a phenomenal job over the past couple of years. I used to work at the Office of Business Opportunities, came back to the Office of Economic Development. They have done a phenomenal job of doing outreach. They are holding classes. They're doing training every month. I know that they are 100% dedicated to getting people in, getting the training they need. They have the revolving loan program. They do things like facade loans and stuff for people. I mean, this is not an area that we're ignoring. We're working on it. I'm kind of one of those firm believers that there's always room for improvement. I mean, even on your best day, there's probably something that you could have done a little bit better. So we're having those discussions. I mean, we certainly want to keep the participation level high. We're doing our strategic plan. We'll be working more with Tina and her staff to see how we can help them kind of amplify their message. Maybe there's businesses that we come into contact that they don't come into contact. I think, we can kind of help provide them some extra touch points and vice versa. So we're interested all the time in how we can participate with everybody. And I'm always readily available to speak to anybody who wants to. If you've got businesses that you've got to network into, I'd love to have a discussion with you on how, we can communicate through you and maybe your contacts and let your people know how, what's going on in the city of Columbia, because you have access to business owners that I probably don't. And I'm very interested in having those conversations with them.
And that's one of the things, I'm glad to hear you say that. That's one of the things that we want to take away from that. You're offering to use Michael Bailey here as a resource to give you connections to businesses that may feel disenfranchised. And that might be valid or invalid, but I'm glad to hear that you're willing to work with him. And that's what we want to come out of these kinds of discussions. We can talk all we want to, but we need to find ways to come up with solutions. The plan, Lee. Come up with the plan.
Right. And let me just add to that too. Number one, it's a two-way street. If those businesses that have all that going for them, there's no reason or no excuse that they can't access or at least get some help to access these opportunities. These guys have been talking about it for the last 3 or 4 years. Richland County, the City of Columbia, OBO working through the city, and even with the Chamber of Commerce, we say, folks, you don't have to be a member to come here to the Chamber for us to help you access whatever it is. And Mike, you and I have worked together very well together. You've been a good partner. So all I'm saying is it's a two-way street.
Nelson, you heard what Michael.
Well, maybe I should clarify when I was talking about opportunities. What I was referring to is 2 things. One, opportunities for a community to take advantage, or for a community to be prepared when an opportunity came. And what I'm referring to there is that when a company is considering relocating, expanding, whatever it may be, that the community itself be prepared for that opportunity. Again, whether it's workforce related, infrastructure related. And so that's one thing I was referring to. The other is on an individual basis, being prepared for the opportunity, whether it's to take classes, to take skill training. So I guess I wasn't being clear that I wasn't particularly referring to opportunities for businesses already here to take advantage. You talked about the penny, again, not to pass the buck, but there is a group, the office that is in charge of trying to disseminate the information about those opportunities. I don't want to speak for them because I'm not part of that program, and anything I said could be wrong, and I don't want that to be construed that way. But I think absolutely the goal is to get their information out as much and as wide as possible. If that's not being done, then that's something that we need to work on, whether it's different marketing channels or whatever that may be, outreach efforts. But I think the idea is definitely to get more people involved. I guess one of the difficulties, though, is you gave the stat of how many minority businesses there are and how many have payroll.
Right.
Well, if the number you're starting with is very low, you can encourage those that are existing to participate, but you need to grow that number to have a real impact. And so I think that's part of it, is to grow minority businesses, and for those that are already here, to take full advantage of the opportunities that are out there.
Before we go any further, we were going to stop at 7:15. I'd like to give permission, we're now at 7:19. I'd like to get permission from our panelists, because I know there are 2 other questions that they've had their hands up for a while. And I'd like to go back to your statements, Wanda, that you originally pose to the panelists. So with your permission, can we go 10 more minutes? Great. Yes, sir. And then,
Were there any companies that may have stayed away from Carolina because of the Confederate flag flying on the State House? And if so, can you name them? And then, since the flag's been taken down, have there been any companies that have said or expressed interest in maybe wanting to come to Columbia or to South Carolina?
I can just give you my experience. I've been doing this close to 20 years, and during that time, I've never had a company say that they would not come here because of the flag. I cannot say with any certainty that a company did not come here because of the flag. They just may have made that decision on the front end that this was not a place they wanted to be a part of, and we would have never known. So from my experience, I can say no, it's never been an issue that has been the reason why a company would locate here. So I can't give any names of companies that are not here. The second part of the question is, are the companies looking now because of the flag coming down? Again, no, not in my experience, but of course we're in week 2. So, I mean, our hope is that that will be perceived as a positive thing for both the Midlands and the state, and that will help our overall business climate. Certainly is not going to hurt us. And so I would hope that companies that may have been reluctant in the past would reconsider South Carolina as a location. But my experience has been that it's not been a big issue that has been verbalized to us.
Well, my take on that is yes. We have had some situations where, particularly with the NAACP boycott, we have had situations where companies, particularly those related to the sports arena. I don't know if you heard Dr. Pestini's comments after during the funeral of the late senator. He made it very clear. He said, "I've already made a phone call to make sure that in the future we'll be able to get some." So the answer to your question is yes.
And I've probably got a little less time in the attraction and recruitment piece of economic development than Nelson does, but I mean, we've had companies bring that up before. It's a negative connotation, and it was over our whole state. And companies, when they are looking at your city, they're going to do their due diligence. They're going to ask those things. They're going to ask those questions. And if you've got that flag flying right up there in the middle of Main and Gervais Street, they're going to ask. They want to know, am I coming to a unified community, or am I coming to a community that's divided? I can't say for certain. I don't recall how that company decision went, if they came here and chose otherwise, but it's been asked a few times too. And you can bet that when businesses are going and you're on a short list and they're looking at other communities, if another community knows that somewhere in South Carolina was in the running, they'll utilize that. They'll use it against you, absolutely. And I'm sure it has happened at some point in history. But I think as far as that goes, we've done a good thing in getting the flag down, and there's a long way to go. But we're inching closer towards being a unified South Carolina.
Thank you. There's a question. Yes, sir.
I just want to comment on what Lee Craig mentioned a while ago about an action plan. First of all, I think all the panelists present information, very, very helpful information. But I want to key in on Lee's suggestion for action plan. He laid out a good scenario 40 years ago, the sit-ins. It was the impetus for the action plan that resulted in the first city council, Dr. Clubs and all. That's what happened. And I'm very high on the action plan. I think that's what we need. Talk, the dialogue is good, but we need an action plan. And Lee, I'd like to suggest to you, ask you if you think that Chamber of Commerce may be receptive to polling their members to see if they would be amenable to develop an action plan, equal employment opportunity action plan, to try to ensure diversification of the workforce in the private sector across the Midlands, at all levels, entry, mid-level, high-level jobs. And this action plan would address what is the problem, what are the problems, resources that can impact, help to take care of the problems, colleges, public schools, tech schools, if it's a training now. And what are our goals, what are the goals for achieving a diversified workforce that's representative of the Midlands area, the Columbia area, which we live.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Appreciate those comments. Number one, we are membership.
Let me just say this. The reason I mentioned that, Lee and I work together right here at the Community Relations Council. So I kind of think, we kind of think alike. That's how, that's what I'm for.
Look at his head. That's when I had a head full of hair. He still has hair. But Mr. Jackson, your comments are well placed. Number one, we are membership driven, and we obviously have to do what's good for the membership. That is businesses, for businesses to thrive and survive. And a part of that is we need to hear from the community what the business community needs to know, or how can we respond. And I would suggest, as Henry very well knows, we have what's called an issues committee, and it meets in this room right here every second Tuesday in the month. And if a group like this, or an individual, or a spokesperson, or whatever, Henry has even been before the issues committee, and the issues committee in turn study it, discuss it, and take it to the next level, which is the board of the chamber, and then it goes from there in terms of an action plan. So my suggestion would be, at the end of all these series, to pull together a group to develop an action plan, and then bring it to the chamber and say, this is what we want to do. We will need your help, to get this actualized. That would be my suggestion.
Thank you very much. Before we leave, I understood you to say that it's not really perception that there's discrimination, but you've talked to many businesses, you even tried to get into some places yourself where you felt like it was discrimination, or at least there was some pushback because you were African American and you were female.
Until I had to pick up the phone. That makes a little bit of a difference, but I shouldn't have to do that.
To find someone to help you open the door.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we talked about that earlier. So what I'm proposing is that I know you can't commit yourselves to, I'm talking to both the city and the county. You can't commit yourself to do certain things, but I hope you would take it back, and then I will follow up with whomever I should